Chapter 17. Father's Final Words. The walk to my father's room felt like it took forever, the halls stretching endlessly before me. Each step was heavier than the last, the weight of what was coming pressing down on me with unbearable force. My mother stayed close by, her presence a steadying hand on my shoulder, but even she couldn't soften the dread building inside me. I wasn't ready for this. How could anyone be ready to say goodbye? When we reached his room, the door was slightly ajar, and I hesitated. For a moment I just stood there, my heart pounding in my chest, unsure of whether I could face what was inside. My father, my rock, the man who had always seemed larger than life, was slipping away, and no amount of corporate maneuvering or strategic brilliance could stop what was happening now. My mother gave me a gentle nod, her eyes filled with understanding, and I finally pushed the door open. The room was dimly lit, the soft hum of machines the only sound. My father lay in the bed, his once powerful frame now frail and sunken, his skin pale. His eyes, though half closed, flickered toward me as I entered, and for a brief moment I saw the man I had always known. The strength, the pride, but it was fleeting, and I could see how weak he had become. "Juliet," he rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. I crossed the room in seconds, taking a seat by his bedside and reaching for his hand. His grip was weak, but it was still there, still him. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to smile even though the tears were already threatening to spill. "Hi, Dad," I whispered, squeezing his hand gently. "I'm here." He gave a small nod, the corners of his lips lifting ever so slightly. "I knew you'd come." For a long moment, neither of us said anything. I just sat there, holding his hand, listening to the steady beep of the heart monitor, trying to wrap my mind around the fact that this might be the last time I ever saw him, the last time I ever heard his voice. "I'm so sorry, Juliet," he said suddenly, his voice trembling with emotion. "For everything. For putting all of this on you." I shook my head quickly, my throat tightening. "No, Dad. Don't. Don't apologize. You've done everything for this family. I wouldn't be who I am without you." His eyes, clouded with pain, softened as they met mine. "But I asked too much of you. I always knew you'd be strong enough, but I wanted you to have your own life. Not this. Pressure. Not the company." Tears stung at the corners of my eyes, and I blinked them away, refusing to let them fall. "I've made my choices, Dad. I'm not doing this because you asked me to. I'm doing this because I believe in what you built, in what our family stands for." He coughed, wincing as he tried to speak again. I wanted you to be happy." "I am happy," I insisted, my voice shaking. "I'm doing this because I love you, because I want to make you proud." A tear slid down my cheek, and this time I didn't bother wiping it away. I leaned forward, resting my forehead against his hand, overwhelmed by the rush of emotion that surged through me. "I'm scared, Dad," I whispered. "I don't know if I'm ready for this. To take on everything." His fingers twitched weakly in my grip, and when I looked up, I saw a flicker of the old fire in his eyes. "You are," he said, his voice stronger than before. "You've always been ready. Stronger than you know. Smarter than anyone in that damn boardroom. You don't need me to tell you that." "But I do," I replied, my voice cracking. "I need you." His smile was faint, but filled with a kind of warmth that made my heart ache. "I'll always be with you, Juliet. In here." He raised a shaky hand and tapped his chest. "In everything you do. You'll carry me and your mother, and the legacy of this family. And I know you'll make us proud." I bit down on my lip, fighting the sob that was clawing its way up my throat. "I don't want to do this without you." "I know, sweetheart," he whispered, his voice soft and full of love. "But you'll have to. And you'll be magnificent." He shifted slightly in the bed, grimacing in pain, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. "The company, it's yours now. Protect it. Protect our family. Make it what you always knew it could be." I nodded, my heart breaking, but I knew I had to be strong for him, even now. I will, I promised. I'll take care of everything. I won't let you down. A small sigh of relief escaped him, and for a moment he seemed at peace. I never doubted you, Juliet. Not for a second. I felt the tears slip down my cheeks, but I couldn't bring myself to speak. My throat was too tight, my heart too full of pain. I just sat there holding his hand, knowing that this was goodbye. I love you, he murmured, his voice barely audible now. More than words could ever say. I love you too, Dad, I whispered, my voice trembling as I leaned in and kissed his forehead. So much. His breathing slowed, and I could feel the life slipping from him, the warmth of his skin fading as his grip on my hand loosened. But his eyes never left mine, even as the light in them dimmed, the love he had for me and for our family shining through to the very end. Take care of them. Of everything. His voice was barely a whisper, the final words hanging in the air like a blessing. For me. And then he was gone. The machines beeped steadily for a few more moments before falling silent, the room growing still. The tears came then, hot and fast, spilling over as I clung to his hand, feeling the emptiness where his presence had once been. My father was gone, but his love, his legacy, those would stay with me forever. And now it was my turn to carry the weight of it, to ensure that what he built, what he believed in, would live on. For him, for us.